I want to hear cannons. Three-step drop, goes on the end zone. Caught ball, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans reaches up with one hand and grabs it in. Here they go again. Tempo mode, dropping the throw. Winston out again, goes to the left. It's intercepted at the 35. Outside the numbers to the 40, to the 35, to the 30, to the 25, to the 20, to the 15-10. Mike Edwards, touchdown Tampa Bay. That's the dagger, my friend.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I am your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucks fan himself from BucksNation.com, Mr. Evan Wanish. Joining us this week as well, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Shaun King. Boys, we are headed into Week 14 of the NFL season. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers sit with a 6-6 record. So essentially a clean slate as we head into the final quarter of the season here. Shaun, how you doing today, my friend?
Well, first of all, we got to acknowledge the greatness in the room, and that is the fact that Tulane Greenway Football School, if you didn't know it, now you know it. I know it's a Bucks podcast, but I got to give a shout out to my alma mater. Headed to the Cotton Bowl to kick some Shaun Johnson, Southern Cal Trojan butt. I can't wait.
Hey, what a fun year for college football it's been. I know programs like USF Colorado, new head coaches, everyone's been talking about that, ending up in the Dion sweepstakes there. But for a lot of other teams, I mean, TCU in the college football playoff, USC is relevant again. There's a lot of things shaking up inside the world of college football this year, and it's been a lot of fun. But let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Shaun, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Buccaneers' victory last weekend. I know we were just giving some love to Tulane, but the Bucs were able to sweep the New Orleans Saints this week, and that's something they haven't been able to do since 2007. It's been a decade and a half since the Bucs were able to put away New Orleans and finally just get that team off of their back, because they have gotten the upper hand against Tampa Bay for as many years as we can remember. And, I mean, history is on our side. Like I said, they have not swept this team since 2007. So safe to say, even though the Bucs are 6-6, that's a pretty big deal so far this season for them to go out there and do that, I think.
Well, can we officially call 16-3 second half of the fourth quarter the scariest lead in all of football? I mean, just so happens last night in the Raiders-Rams game, very similar situation. But I'll say this, I mean, never in doubt, right? When they punted at 16-3 on fourth down, I mean, those boos were a little premature. I told you guys, stop doubting Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady. They're just setting you guys up, man, to prove everyone wrong. Now, how fortunate, but as I've been saying, I probably have been the only beacon of moderateness in this entire Bucs fandom from beginning to end. As I've always stated, they're still in first in the NFC South. Obviously, they're the scariest 6-6 team in the history of football, seeing as Atlanta has waved the white flag and gone to Desmond Ridder. Carolina traded away Baker Mayfield, so it looks like the South is going to be ours. I do say there is some significance internally with who they swept, because the Saints have kind of been a thorn, in the Bucs side, ever since the NFC South was invented and created. So that has to make them feel good. It probably doesn't have the luster it would have if Drew Brees and Sean Payton were still manning the sideline. But in a year where we've been scratching and clawing, I mean, just get us to the playoffs. And I know we haven't gotten to the Niners game, but I'm picking the Bucs to win this game. Of course, I host a sports betting show on VSiN Primetime. I have put in my futures bets for the Bucs to win the NFC and for the Bucs to win the Super Bowl. I just think when you look at what they've done defensively since the Kansas City game, they've given up 151 points. That's only 18 a game. No one's talking about how that defense has stabilized itself in the midst of a bunch of injuries. I mean, they went into this game, no Sean Murphy-Bunting, no Winfield. Like they were missing some key pieces, and yet they still stood tall, only giving up 16 points. So, if they can get healthy, Julio Jones is starting to flash. Chris Godwin is looking really healthy. Rashad White is starting to, prove like a nice yang to hopefully when we get Fournette back up and running his yin. So I think this is a dangerous team. I think it's a great buy low point on the Bucs.
Yeah, and I think before we move on to the San Francisco game, I wanted to point out, like you said, there's significance of who they swept. It's not just sweeping the Panthers or sweeping the Falcons. They've done that in the past. But a team like the Saints, who, I mean, the Bucs didn't even beat a team like the Saints the entire time Bruce Arians was the head coach in the regular season. It didn't happen. So to be able to come back and sweep them, especially in the way you did it, coming back like that. I mean, even the year, 2002. Shaun King, you were on that team. You guys won the Super Bowl. You were still swept by New Orleans. It always seems like New Orleans has always had the Bucs number. So it's nice to sort of turn the tide there and return the favor.
Hey, Shaun, let me ask you a question, and we'll start the conversation about this week's game with the offense. We saw them pull some magic out at the end of that Monday Night Football game, right? Tom Brady did his thing. 14 points unanswered in less than 4 minutes was pretty damn incredible. I mean, at one point, the Saints had a 98.6% chance to win that game, and they could not put it away. But
they Falcons it.
Right. We talk about the offense, and you wanted to give a little bit of credit to Byron Leftwich, and I have done that this week as well. A lot of people obviously still not very happy with him. The Bucs were booed off of the field more than one time on Monday night. That offense was in a situation where there were a couple of times where the opportunity presented itself to go ahead and try and go for it on fourth down, and they elected to punt. In hindsight, ended up being the right thing to do, but in the moment, people didn't like it very much. Now, with that being said, the offensive production so far this season, I know the defense has been playing lights out. You would like to see some more takeaways, but at the end of the day, they're top 5 in scoring. They have been playing well enough to help this team win. With the offense, if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, whose offense averaged 30 points per game in 2021, if they somehow scored 22 points in all the games that they lost, they would be 10-2 right now. And realistically, 22 points for a Bucs team, especially coming into the season, the lofty expectations that were had, it doesn't seem like a lot. So what do you make with Byron Leftwich and where this offense is right now? Because, yeah, the Bucs are winning games. They're winning it with defense. They're winning it with Tom Brady, thank goodness. But this offense still hasn't been in a situation to really go out there and put this team away comfortably. You know what I mean? Like that final game-winning drive against the Rams was in the last minute of the game. Against the Saints, 3 seconds left on the clock after the Rashad White touchdown. They wasted no time. So what do you make of this offense and how they're winning games for the Bucs right now?
Let me explain something. Minnesota is 10-2. They've scored 289 points, and they've given up 279. So they're plus 10 in point differential, and they're 10-2. So at the end of the day, statistically, if you just looked at certain stats, you would say that the Bucs are better than the Vikings. Like, as you play it out and, some of these outcomes start to regress to fit the process. And I think what you're seeing with Tampa specifically is they are trying to figure it out in front of us. And I think this is why a lot of teams, as we move forward, are going to alter how they approach the preseason. This notion that we don't have to participate in the preseason, it hadn't worked. The Rams tried it this year. Stafford didn't play a preseason game, and they stink. You look at the Bengals. Burrow got hurt. He didn't play in the preseason. They didn't have any of that offensive line. They got off to a tragically bad start. And I think what you're seeing with Tampa is slowly but surely, as they have pieces, they still haven't figured out how Russell Gage fits into this. They're still trying to mix and match Julio Jones, without Cameron Brate, Cade Otton, what can he do? Or Rashad White, like, what are his strengths? Like, okay, how can we motivate Leonard Fournette but still have him be effective? Like, they're trying to figure some of these things out, I think, on the fly. And I think that's why you hadn't seen the explosiveness or the cohesiveness But through 12 games, like, the light is still shining at the end of the tunnel. And I'm not going to be surprised if all of a sudden Mike Evans and Brady regain their downfield vertical connection and Julio finds a real role and they find a balance in the slot between Godwin and Gage. And now all of a sudden Fournette and Rachaad White are like a nice little 1-2 combo. So, that's kind of why I've been optimistic throughout some of these struggles, because the season hadn't gotten out of hand. Now, if I was a Rams fan, I would say, who cares what happens? Like, they're already on to next year. They can't make the playoffs. There's no conceivable way. But because of where they were in the division, I felt like they would keep, pounding the rock. I think used to be Coach Dungy's saying, just keep, putting the shovel into the ground, and eventually you're going to hit water. So it's still imperfect, but you can see that they're still working day and night to get it fixed.
Yeah, and you bring up the Vikings, and I forget their exact. It might be like 9-0 or something in 1-score games. So they're playing a ton of close football games, but they're winning them. And the Bucs just have not won them. They lost to the Packers by 2. They lost to the Browns in overtime. Those are 2 one-score games right there. The Ravens game ended up being a one-score game when it was all said and done. And it's difficult, and Rhett, you bring up a good point that 22 points is not a lot of points. If they just scored those, they would be a lot different right now. We'd be having many different conversations right now about this team. But
not to cut you off, Evan, I just want to put context on what I was saying. If the Bucs ended up having to go to Minnesota in the playoffs, who would feel like the Bucs can't win that game?
Yeah, I mean,
that just was the point I was making. Like 10-2, 6-6 on paper, it looks like these teams are drastically far apart as far as
But when
quality.
When you compare the close wins and the close losses, the games that really could have gone either way, the gap isn't as big as people would think.
Yeah, and their close wins and losses are against Lions, Bears. I know they had the one Josh Allen fumbled in the end zone game against Buffalo. But
yeah.
All right, my bad, Evan.
They got away with one there, but
right.
Yeah. So I mean, you're right. I mean, you are starting, and I think after that the Baltimore game, I think you've seen a better offense. Now, it hasn't resulted in as many points still, but I think you're seeing a better offense because of the guys like Cade Otton and Rachaad White, like them guys stepping up, becoming a bigger part of the offense. I think that's why you're seeing a little bit more improvement there. I think Cameron Brate, if he returns this week, it seemed like he's on track to do so. I still think Cade Otton should probably be the tight end 1 right now. I think he's earned it. So with his play, obviously you can't break the veteran. I'm not just going to completely bench him, but I think Otton should be getting a good bit of the reps at that spot. So, the offense, the points aren't there. And the process at times is very, very frustrating. And at times versus New Orleans, it was very frustrating. But it's still, they are close. I mean, despite what people want to say, Byron Leftwich even says, they're close. And like, when you look at the film, like, yeah, they are. Like, do they need some better quarterback play? A little bit. I thought Brady was playing pretty poorly until that fourth quarter on Monday night. Do they need better offensive line play? A little bit. Do their run game needs to be better? Yes. Like, does Mike Evans need to be better? Yes. Like, the Brady Evans connection that you mentioned, Shaun, might be the single most important thing, though, whether this offense is going to get back on track or not. Because if that can get back, then that opens up a lot more things for the entire offense if they can get back on track. And if they can't, I think they're going to struggle against some of these better teams. But if they can, I think they really could open up a lot of stuff for the rest of the receivers, like a Godwin, a Gage, for the rest of the offense.
As we take a look at Sunday's game against San Francisco, not only is it a big deal for the Buccaneers to potentially win and get themselves back up to a positive win-loss record on the season, they would go to 7-6.
For the first time since week 3.
I know, man. It seems like forever ago since the Buccaneers had a positive record, and they've usually had one while Tom Brady has been quarterback. So it's been quite a strange sight so far this year. But not only is it a tough game for the Buccaneers in that aspect, but it does have some playoff seeding implications, not necessarily this week, but it could later on down the road as teams want to finish up the year strong. San Francisco, another worthy contender in the NFC, and if the Bucs win this game, they have that head-to-head tiebreaker. And later at the end of the year, when you're talking about division winners and who's fighting for spots, that could be the difference between maybe a 3rd and a 4th seed for the Bucs. And right now, you'd almost rather be the 3rd seed than the 4th seed in the NFC.
And that's a big difference because, as the 4 seed.
No, guys. No.
There's a big difference between.
There is a
big difference between playing the Dallas Cowboys in Raymond James Stadium or playing the New York Giants or Washington Commanders. Like there is.
There is not.
There is. The Cowboys are far better than both those teams.
First of all, the Giants won't be in the playoffs. I don't think. I think Commanders. And if you look at how the Commanders are playing, they're playing as good a football as anybody right now. And they're at some point they're going to get Chase Young back. I'm just telling you, inside of an NFL locker room, you don't look at it like that.
No,
Would you love to have a home game? Absolutely. But you look at it like, if Dallas is that good, we're going to have to play them anyway at some point.
Yeah.
So if we're going to lose to them, let's lose to them in the wild card, not the NFC Championship game. Shit, let's go ahead and get on vacation. Like, if that's what we got to beat, then let's go ahead and knock them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. But as far as seeding and stuff goes, if they're the 3, they would play. Obviously the 6, but then that would also mean they wouldn't have. I mean, Philly is likely going to be the 1 seed. So that would mean they wouldn't have to travel to Philly until at the earliest the NFC Championship game. So, and Philly right now is playing like the best team in football. So, they're going to be a tough out. And I
want Philly first playoff game.
I bet with the history
because they got
had with your team, you would.
To be honest, that's when they're most vulnerable. Because as good as they've been this year, they don't have a whole bunch of playoff pedigree.
Mm-hmm.
Like they got a lot of guys who are going to be doing it for the first time. And I know Philly made the playoffs last year, but they didn't shake anything. Like, so the pressure's going to be on them.
No, Philly made the playoffs last year, and then all of a sudden it was 31-0 in Tampa Bay, and that game was said and done. So I think not only do Bucs fans want to see that matchup, but so do a lot of Philly fans. It's a much different team this year.
It's two very different teams with the Bucs.
We own Philly, y'all. We tore down the vet. And then we made them want to tear down Lincoln Financial. You always got that over the Eagles, baby. We kicked that butt in the last ever game in Veterans, raggedy stadium, and then we kicked that butt because the NFL disrespected us and had the defending Super Bowl champion on the road to open the following season. And we went in there with Sylvester Stallone. By the way, if you haven't seen Tulsa King, it is tremendous.
Is it?
Sylvester Stallone plays. Oh, it's tremendous. Yeah. We went in there. Sylvester was all in the stairway yelling. We kicked that butt at first game at Lincoln Financial. Take that, McNabb.
I like the energy. It's historic. That's history there.
It was a shutout, right?
So every time the Eagles fans get a little chirpy, just remind them of that.
All right, well, let's talk about the matchup for Tampa Bay this weekend in the Bay Area. Over there on the West Coast, Tom Brady headed back home to San Francisco, and we talked a little bit about this Bucs offense. I want to get some more thoughts on it heading into this game. So Tristan Wirfs has already been confirmed out for the 2nd week in a row, and lucky for Tampa Bay, Donovan Smith hasn't been playing well, and this week he's going to match up against Nick Bosa, who just so happens to lead the NFL in sacks. So with that being said, it's safe to say that San Francisco, while they are going to be starting a rookie quarterback, they have got a stout defense. And if there's anything they're going to be able to do, it's going to be neutralize this Buccaneers offense. Now, they could go out there and probably still score 17 points and win this game, because if the Buccaneers defense can play the way that we want it to, then hopefully that's the narrative for this one. But what do we think about the Buccaneers offense this week? I mean, the biggest question on everyone's minds is how are they going to move the ball? Because San Francisco is ranked pretty high in both stopping the run and the pass. And with an offensive line that needs to protect Tom Brady just a little bit better, it's going to be a tough task this week.
Oh, and not only are you playing a really good defense, you're also on the road. So I think, that combination is always difficult. And, they're going to have to play better than they did last week. They're going to have to play better than probably their best offensive performance this week, because I think this is one of the best defenses they're going to see all year. So they have talent all around the board, all three levels of their defense. And this could be a game where, but the one thing, if you were going to nitpick the 49ers defense, the one thing you could say is their corners aren't as strong as some other teams. So this could be a game where possibly Mike Evans and Brady get that connection back. If they do, it could mean a pretty efficient day for the offense. That's the biggest thing for me. I think you need to avoid the backbreaking turnovers, which they've done a pretty good job of this year. I know they had the 2 turnovers against New Orleans, but you have to avoid those backbreaking ones. And if you can protect the football and just continually move the chains, you can get the San Francisco defense tired, and you can start to wear them down and score a little bit of points there.
Talk a lot about history this week. Just a fun tidbit of information about Tom Brady. His next touchdown that he throws as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer will be his 100th passing touchdown as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer in less than 3 seasons, obviously.
And
making
it might be basically in his home.
Yeah, that is a very big deal. But what do you think, Shaun, about the offense? I know we talked about Byron Leftwich a little bit earlier. What are they going to have to hone in on this week, or what do you think may have to be the focus more than anything else to try and find some rhythm against a really good 49ers defense?
Well, the Bucs not looking at it like we go and play this great defense. They're looking at it like, man, we got Hall of Famers stepping off the plane that's going to have Tampa jerseys on. I mean, how are they going to stop us? And I think that's the swag, confidence they have to get back. I mean, the hell with San Francisco. We walking in the stadium, first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe greatest quarterback ever, Tom Brady. Mike Evans, in a down year, is about to have 1,000 yards receiving. Chris Godwin now finally healthy. Julio Jones, you saw the catch he made against the Saints. Like, we walking in like, hey, man, y'all got to deal with us. We ain't worried about y'all. Like, I hope Tristan Wirfs doesn't play the rest of the regular season. I want him to get completely healthy. Him coming back for me, I just want him to be healthy once the playoffs start. But, man, you got to have that kind of swag, man. If you go in their locker room before the game, they put their cleats on, their shoulder pads on, just like we do. That's the approach you have to have, and we got to start getting back to that mentality. I stressed earlier defensively that we weren't playing with that kind of level of intensity and physicality, and you've seen that start to ratchet up. Much better tackling in open spaces the last few weeks. Much better getting off the field on third down. Much better contesting a lot of catches. So you can see them improving, and you'd expect that with Bowles' background being on defense. I think he doesn't get enough credit for how he never panicked. Even when, people were calling for his head, I think one of the greatest things they did marketing-wise is when they put publicly that conversation he had with his team. And you didn't hear any panic in Todd Bowles' voice. He simply was stating the facts. Guys, we have the talent and the personnel in this room. We have to be a little better at our responsibilities. And you've seen that start to happen. Now, offensively, we got to get out the gates quicker. Like, I feel like we sleepwalk through the first half in a lot of these games. Like, I don't sense and feel that juice on offense. So if I'm Leftwich, I'm attacking that. Like, I'm putting up a cut-up of what we've done the second half in a fourth quarter, or the second half of the fourth quarter in games we've come back and won. So why aren't we attacking the first drive in the same way that we're attacking that part of the game? So I think the Bucs are going to continue to just get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. And this is a great opportunity to prove it. Having said that, I will have on a Brock Purdy jersey, at least for a social media picture, because they brought me back to life, fellas. I thought I had evaporated,
Good Morning Football.
Yeah, my man Booger, everybody, they brought me back to life. So I got to capitalize, on this opportunity, and but I'm rooting for Tampa. Y'all know that. All my bets are on Tampa. So, but I got to show some love. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm just telling you the way that, and I'm a fan now. I just happen to have the background of having been in the locker room. The way that a fan looks at the game is not how an elite team looks at the game. And I know they're 6-6, so their record is far from elite this year, but they still are the same guys that won a championship. A lot of these guys have that ring. So they're looking at it a whole completely different way. If you look at the Miami Dolphins, San Francisco game film, Miami lost because Tua was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Miami didn't lose because Tua didn't have guys running wide open from start to finish. I don't know what happened, but he played his worst game of the season. And Miami's not even really good on defense. And for the most part, they limited and minimized, that San Francisco attack. So when you watch that tape, you're looking at it like Brady's going to make these throws. We got to make sure that we're on top of our stuff protection-wise. We don't want to give Bosa a whole lot of open edges, where he can get in a wide nine and really put our tackles in situations. We're going to have to move Cade Otton, Cameron Brate. We're going to have to chip with Fournette and Rashad. And if they get into the route concept late, that's better than Bosa getting to Brady early. Yeah. And so those are some of the sacrifices as a play caller that you have to make. You just want to make him work for it. Make Bosa work. Don't give him anything easy. And if they can do that, get this thing to the fourth quarter, listen, I'm all for Brock Purdy being a reincarnation of Shaun King, but my money's with Brady versus Purdy, if this game is on the line in the fourth. So I'm looking at it like Tampa's, here to kind of make a statement. So that's why I said, you guys should go ahead and put a little futures bet in, on Tampa to win the NFC and Tampa to win the Super Bowl. And because it's not going to get any higher. The odds aren't going to get any better from here on out.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you're talking about the mentality thing, that's why I like that you brought that up, and I think the Bucs have been, before Brady got here, they didn't have it. Then Brady got here, and they started to get it, right? They started to get more confidence going into the game, expecting to win, not hoping to win. I think there's a big difference between expecting it and hoping. On your 2000s, that defense, you knew going into that game that they were going to kick the offense's butt, right? You just knew it. And the defense expected that. Like the offense, the entire team expected that to happen. And I think for this offense right now, that's what they're missing. They are missing that edge. That hey, we're we still are who we are, and it doesn't change the last 2 years. Yeah, the pieces are different. There's a lot of different pieces, but we can still do this because you still have the talent. So I think that's what they're missing right now, and hopefully a win like they just had versus New Orleans can give them the confidence to be able to go in there and say, look, like, this is our body of work here, and we can turn this thing around.
Yeah.
And what? And they're going to have to prove it now. San Francisco thinking the same thing. Mm-hmm. I can hear him now. I can hear Warner now. Hey, Mike Evans, who'll win a 40 between you and Brady right now? Well, take them ankle weights off. Like, all of that's happening. Like, they're making sure that they're letting you know what we see on film. So, hopefully the guys respond in the proper way. Like, man, we can beat San Francisco. San Francisco isn't unbeatable. That's kind of why I've been so positive. I don't see a complete football team in the NFL this year. I'm just telling you, if you take away Jalen Hurts' improvisation, Philly don't really scare you. That run defense is average.
Yeah,
they just lost Chartner Gardner-Johnson.
How can you take that away, though? That's a huge
that's where your Devin Whites and your Levante David show up big in that kind of game. Bucs are one of the few teams that have two backers that have shown they can track. They can get to the football, when they're locked in. So, now they got to do it. Now, saying it is one thing, getting them on the ground is something different. But, a lot of what Jalen does is based on lack of rush discipline by the front. When you play a quarterback like a Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields, you don't rush to get the sack. You rush to force them to throw the ball. And so when you watch them escape from the pocket, just look at the end. He's got contained. He gets selfish. He goes underneath. Now you're playing man behind it. Jalen's out. He's running. Half your defense is playing man. Like, you just got to be disciplined in how you rush a quarterback like that. Force him to sit in the pocket and make throws. If he can beat you like that, so be it. Same thing with Brock Purdy. Mm-hmm. You want to make Brock Purdy have to get to his third and fourth options.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to make sure that we're in the passing lanes when we're playing zone. I want to make sure that we don't give up any cheap big plays and man. Like, this is the kind of game where Carlton, don't grab. Make the quarterback and the receiver complete the play. Like I get frustrated sometimes with some of our guys in the secondary because they get these unnecessary pass interference penalties. These unnecessary holding, defense on third down. Like the ball's 7 feet away in the dirt, and all of a sudden they got an automatic first down because we're just grabbing people. Like, this is the game, man. Listen, trust your technique. Force Brock to deliver the football accurately and on time. That's the way that I would approach this kind of game.
Yeah, you gotta let him beat you. If he beats you, he beats you. But don't give him anything free.
One more spot on the offense I wanted to talk about before we deep dive into the other side of the football here, the running back position. So you mentioned Leonard Fournette, using him to help out as a blocker a little bit. He hasn't practiced. He didn't practice today, which means he may or may not be ready to go. We don't know for sure. Tristan Wirfs right now, the only confirmed player out for Tampa Bay. But I want to feel like Lenny gives it a go. But if he doesn't, I think either way we're going to see a healthy dose of Rachaad White, the rookie, fresh off a game-winning touchdown in Raymond James Stadium. Shaun, what do you think of Rachaad White so far? I think as far as the run game goes and even just being a receiving threat out of the backfield, he has been a bit of a second wind for this offense here in the second half of the season so far.
Well, he's getting better. I still think he's got to find the balance between being evasive and having great ball security. You can see him. It's on his mind because he's put that ball on the ground a couple of times. I think the first time we saw it was the kickoff return versus Kansas City. He put the ball on the ground again against the Saints. Now, what happens with a young player like that is his greatest asset is, his ability to make people miss in space, his ability to accelerate, decelerate with speed. But a lot of that is tied into the mechanisms of your arms, being able, if you watch a track runner, they're pulling the rope as they run. So he's got to find that balance on how to be evasive and still have great ball security, but you can see the ability, there. And as he gets more comfortable, hopefully he's going to get more explosive. I would love for them in the red zone because of the ability of Fournette and Rachaad to do some more two running back stuff. We have both of those guys, as eligible pass catchers because I both think they do a great job in the pass game. I don't understand Leonard Fournette sometimes. Like, I think he's a guy that gets emotionally hijacked. And I think when he's in the right mental frame of mind, and I think he's a really, really excellent football player, but I think he can get off track. And he's one of those guys, if he's not feeling it, you're going to see it. Like, he don't do a good job of hiding it. So, hopefully this is just a little phase that he's going through. People forget during the Super Bowl year, Fournette almost got sent home.
Yeah, he was almost cut.
He had got pouty one day in practice, and he called himself walking off because I think they had named was it Ronald Jones? They had made Jones the starter. It's kind of this same situation, and Arians was about to send him home, and lucky the running back coach said, "Hey, coach, give me a shot." And ultimately he was a big reason we won that Super Bowl. But Todd just got to find out, what's his trigger? Like, how do I get him back locked in? Like, where he's running with power. Like, that's where he frustrates me. If you look at his LSU film, he has the ability to run through contact. He has the ability to have the same impact Josh Jacobs has for the Raiders. And that's yards after contact. But then sometimes, him and Brady probably about the same when it comes to getting tackled in space when he's not feeling it. You know what I mean?
Happened a few times on Monday night.
Right. So hopefully we get the good Leonard here. Hopefully he can see the light at the end of the tunnel. This is another opportunity. If he can get hot, maybe go back and get another bag. So, but I do think Rachaad White is showing a lot of talent. He just got to get his confidence to the point where he's secure and taking care of that football, because when you put that on tape, now they're going for it all the time.
Yeah. And I think for this Buccaneers offense in this matchup, consistency is going to be your best friend. Kind of like that first drive against New Orleans that we talked about, converting short yardage situation, staying on the field after a 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, burning a lot of clock. I mean, they took up 7.5, 8 minutes off of the first quarter on that first drive against New Orleans. And I think stuff like that and ultimately not making any mistakes with the football is going to be the key to keeping this one close. But let's talk about the defense. So, a lot can be said about the rookie quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, not so irrelevant anymore, Brock Purdy. in his first career start. But, I mean, I think the bigger storyline here, at least for Tampa Bay, is going to be the takeaways, because everyone's going to say, well, when you play a rookie quarterback, you want to make him feel pressured. You want him to get rid of the ball early, maybe force a couple of mistakes, because if there's anything a young, inexperienced quarterback is good for, it may be 1 or 2 interceptions a game. Now, with that being said, this is a Buccaneers defense with only 2 takeaways in the last 8 games. While they have been playing some of the best football we have seen these last couple of years.
And one of those takeaways was on a Hail Mary.
Right. So, I mean, safe to say the Bucs aren't getting a lot of takeaways. And another problem that we've talked about is that they aren't really close to them either. It's not like there's a lot of deflected balls where Carlton Davis is right there in a position to make a play. So how are the Bucs going to have to try and change that this week? I know it's much easier said than done, but Evan, your thoughts on the defense headed into this week's matchup?
Yeah, I think the key to forcing turnovers, especially when you're facing inexperienced quarterbacks, got to be pressure. And I think they have to provide consistent pressure, and it was inconsistent on Monday night, but it showed up when it mattered. Obviously, Carl Nass getting that big sack, and they pressured Dalton a few other times, but there were some times where Dalton had a ton of time. And I think, no matter who it is, if a quarterback is sitting there with 5-6 seconds in the pocket, he's going to be able to find somebody open. Your corners can only cover for so long. So I think pressure, like you said, forcing Purdy to make quick decisions. Look, Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive coaches in the league. He's not going to put Brock Purdy in a bunch of precarious situations. He's not going to put him in tough spots. So they're going to want to get it to 3rd and short. They're going to want to get the 2nd and short to where he can either dump the ball off quickly to McCaffrey or Debo, or they're going to be able to run the ball, which obviously the 49ers have been able to do that for a long time. So I don't think Kyle Shanahan's going to want to put him in those situations where he's going to have to throw, which I think is going to be actually less about Purdy and how you're going to stop him in the pass. I think if the Bucs stop the run, I think that's actually going to be a bigger key to deciding this game, because if you're able to force Purdy into 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, where they have to throw the ball and have to throw it beyond the sticks, I think that's where you could come up with maybe a turnover or 2. Just like we talked about, and you mentioned it, they're not even really close to many turnovers here. So they come in bunches. The Bucs have had they had one against Seattle, which is a critical one, a very critical one. The fumble, the Seahawks were about to score, but one against Seattle, and then the one on a Hail Mary against Cleveland. Other than that, they haven't really come close. So I think the key to getting turnovers is pressure, but I also think that it's putting the 49ers in situations where Purdy has to throw, where he has to make a 7, 8, 9-yard throw rather than a 2-yard dump off to McCaffrey and he gets the easy first down. I think if you're having the 49ers in those situations, that's exactly what they want. They'll be able to control the clock, control the tempo, and it could be a long day. But if you're able to stop them on 1st and 2nd down, only allow 2 or 3 yards in those 2 downs, I think you could have a lot of success and maybe come away with a turnover or 2.
I got a completely different perspective on this thing. Garoppolo, 10 starts this year, threw the ball more than 30 times, only 4. So that tells me, when you look back at the fact that he had taken them to a Super Bowl, yet they gave up all of those assets to trade up and draft Trey Lance. He took them to the NFC Championship game last year, and we're talking about Garoppolo. Yet they told Garoppolo, you can come to training camp, but you don't have to participate. We're going to try and find a trade partner for you. So I said that to say Kyle Shanahan doesn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. Mm-hmm. Yet in the first game that Brock Purdy fills in, they throw the ball 37 times. I'm telling you, there's a greater trust quotient with Purdy and Shanahan than there is with Garoppolo and Shanahan, because he's seen Jimmy run out the back of the end zone. He's seen Jimmy sell the whole 150 acres for $1.50 in the second half of the Super Bowl. Like, he's watched that happen. He saw Jimmy last year for no reason throw the game away against the Rams. If Jimmy just takes the sack and they punt, they probably win that game. So I'm not going to be surprised if he's aggressive with Purdy until Purdy shows him that he shouldn't be. And so I think the Bucs, that's what you have to plan for. You have to make sure that you don't give up something cheap by being undisciplined, by being too aggressive early in this game. Like, I'd rather give up a couple 12-yard out routes than think that I'm going to sit on everything and Ayuk or Debo or Kittle's double moves us and, they're throwing the ball over our head. Because I'm telling you, Shanahan been trying to get rid of Garoppolo for a minute now. He just hasn't figured out, how to do it. So I think you have to keep that in the back of your mind, that this could be a more aggressive game plan than we anticipate. And a lot of that could be he's looking at a Bucs secondary, first of all, that's injury riddled. And secondly, as you mentioned, it hadn't been really turnover prone. Like, they haven't forced a lot of turnovers. They haven't been getting deflections and catching them. They haven't been breaking on balls. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of trepidation, from him. I mean, the Bucs haven't been dominating from a pass rush standpoint. What they have been doing is great red zone defense, giving up field goals, not touchdowns, keeping the game manageable so that, they have a chance to win in the fourth. So, I think they got to be on their P's and Q's, especially early, because I think he's going to challenge these guys down the field.
And if that's the case, I do think that either way, this pass rush does have to be a little bit better than they were Monday night against New Orleans, because even though Andy Dalton didn't run wild, it did seem like whenever he was back there to pass, he had 3, 4, 5, 6 seconds to really stand there in the pocket, move around, run over to this hash, run to this hash, and then throw the football. And you just can't do that. I mean, if they want to get aggressive with a rookie quarterback, then so be it. You can bend but not break. But either way, I don't think you should be giving any quarterback that much time to operate. And if you want the rest of this defense to follow suit, shorten these plays, like get to the quarterback. I thought guys like Carl Nassib might need a little bit more playing time in this defense, to be honest with you. The snap counts last week came out, and Anthony Nelson, I think, was like the most played outside linebacker as far as snap count go. Not even Joe Tryon-Shoyinka or Carl Nassib were able to get that many reps in. So I think, you got to maybe change the way you send those guys out there. I'd like to see a little more Carl Nassib, had that huge sack at the end of the game. But I think, point blank at the end of the day, the pass rush is just, they got to get there.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the elephant in the room, I mean, listen, Vita Vea is a phenomenal football player, but his strength is not rushing the quarterback.
Right.
And when he leads you in sacks and your second leading sacker is a linebacker, then, I know Shaq Barrett's battling some injuries, but, this is what Joe Tryon was drafted to do, right? Replace Jason Pierre-Paul. And so you got to get more from that position. As you mentioned, if it's a combination of Nassib and Tryon, so you keep them fresh, we got to get a pass rush from that front four. When we've been great, whether it's my time or whether it's the Super Bowl year, it's because they could get pressure with 4. Mm-hmm. They had guys that could get to the quarterback on third down, get that ball out of the quarterback's hand quick, and you're there, you're spot on. We haven't been able to do that. So, this will be a tough week for it to happen, because you have to really put those heels in the ground, because they run the ball so effectively. They run the ball in such a myriad of ways with McCaffrey and Debo, and, they got rid of Jeff Wilson, who was excellent, and then Eli Mitchell got hurt, and it didn't matter because they got Davis Price or Mason, so it's just like, right. So, you've got to be run first in those situations, because Shanahan will run the ball on 3rd and 6. But at the same time, like, the guys that are getting checks every week and they're supposed to specialize in rushing the quarterback, they've got to start producing.
So let's talk about this Buccaneers secondary, and then we'll get to some score predictions and wrap this thing up. We talked about how decimated they were, especially the defensive back room, missing guys like SMB last week. Antoine Winfield Jr. wasn't playing. Now, not sure who they're going to have once it's all said and done this week, because, again, not anybody in that room has been rolled out, but some guys look more doubtful than others. But I did want to give some praise to the guys who stepped up and played well, and that's Keanu Neal and obviously the return of Logan Ryan coming off of IR from Monday night's game. They have been playing well. I think Keanu Neal started the year playing well. Logan Ryan was hot as well. I think Keanu Neal went a little underappreciated, but he kind of gives me shades of he gives me shades of a Jordan Whitehead. He's not Jordan Whitehead. He's not as stable or as consistent. You know what I mean? He's not showing up as much in run support as a Jordan Whitehead, but he is your enforcer at the safety position, and
he lays the boom, man.
I mean, he's been around the play. You know what I mean? He's been hitting people, and he's been kicking ass back there. So just wanted to give a shout out to those guys.
That Tom Brady drive doesn't happen if it's not for Keanu.
Yeah, that big incompletion to Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill holds on to that ball. The Bucks 99% chance that they lose. Like that's it. They might have gotten the ball back, but maybe with only a few seconds instead of a minute 30 or whatever. So that's a big.
What's the injury update on Winfield and Murphy Buck?
Yeah, so I believe they both practiced, but they were limited. I believe the same with Mike Edwards as well. Bowles said he didn't really have many updates. They're hopeful that some of them can go, but they're not 100% sure. The only one that's been ruled out is Wirfs, and he also said about Fournette that he was hopeful he could go. But I think all of them are going to be pretty much game time decisions, pretty close to it. But as far as the secondary goes, I think it's Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean both have some tough assignments this week with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, especially Ayuk. Ayuk's been really good this year. At times, he's been better than Samuel. I know Samuel does a little bit of everything in the 49ers offense, but Ayuk has been really, really good. So that's going to be a challenge. And for the safeties, it's more specifically a guy like Keanu Neal. He might have to cover a guy like George Kittle. And, obviously Kittle's one of the best tight ends in the league. That's going to be a challenge as well. So this secondary, hopefully they can get one of those, secondary guys back so you can give them a little bit of different looks here and there, whether it's Winfield, Edwards, Murphy Bunting, so you can give them, different looks at nickel or anything like that. You can play Zion McCollum a little bit less. I like McCollum's potential, but I just think the rookie right now is just not really ready for this moment. So he got beat up a little bit on Monday night. So if you're able to play him a little bit less because one of those guys comes back, I think that would work out really well. And, I think just like Shaun said, the secondary is going to be disciplined. I think you can't really, especially with a rookie quarterback, make him earn it. You can't give him anything cheap and easy. So you can't give up the 30-yard pass interference penalty. That can't happen. That sets up a touchdown. So don't give anything free. And I think that the secondary can be up to the challenge because, again, the 49ers don't push the ball down the field consistently, but they will test you with a lot of different looks and stuff. So I think the secondary's got to be ready for that.
Yeah. Let's get to our picks. So, funny enough, for the first time in what feels like months, and maybe the first time all season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not favored to win this game. The road trip probably has a lot to do with that, but San Francisco comes into this one. The lines that I have in front of me say that they are 3.5-point favorites, and the over-under is 37 points. So, Evan.
I like that over. I like the over there.
You think so? You got a lot of faith in the offense? At least one of these offenses this week is going to...
Actually, I don't know. I might be telling myself a little bit here. I don't know.
All right, well, let me get your picks first since you're so undecided here. You think the Bucs are going to win this game, and you think they're going to cover?
Yeah, it's a tough game. I mean, I think the 49ers, especially before Garoppolo went down, I think the 49ers were really on track to maybe play in the NFC title game. They might still be. Because they were getting better and better each week, and but now Garoppolo's injury really changes everything. So you have a huge wild card with Brock Purdy. You don't know what he's gonna be, how he's gonna look, and I think that kind of it helps the Bucs because it's an inexperienced quarterback, but it also hurts them because there's less film. So there's some different things that the 49ers might be able to do that the Bucs haven't seen before. I think it's a hard-fought game, but I don't think the Bucs win. I think the 49ers are just a bit too good. You're on a short week. You played Monday night, and then you have to travel to the West Coast. I believe the Bucs might be traveling tonight to San Francisco. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think they win. What is that? You said 3.5?
3.5, San Fran favored.
See, I was wrestling with two different predictions. One of them would have the Bucs covering, one of them wouldn't. I'm gonna go with the cover one, but the over under, actually, I told him myself there it would not hit the over under. So I'm gonna say 20-17 49ers. It hits 37. It doesn't hit 37.5. But 20-17 49ers. It's gonna be a close game. I think it's gonna be I think the 49ers are just gonna be able to do just enough to be able to pull out the win.
I got a similar score than you do, but I got the Buccaneers taking this one. 21-16, my final score. I like the Bucs outright in this contest. I think it's a statement game for Tampa Bay. Like both of you guys had mentioned earlier, this is their chance to make a statement and prove to the rest of the NFC, like, we're not the bums that you thought we were 3-4 weeks ago when we were losing games we shouldn't have been. With that being said, as teams look to get more competitive down the stretch, I think this is going to do a lot for playoff seeding for Tampa Bay in the long run. They go on a little bit of a run here, and I think they take this one. It's a tough road game, but I just can't see Tom Brady losing in San Francisco. Only his second time in his 20-plus year career that he has played in San Francisco against the 49ers. Crazy. So it is kind of crazy. So that this game is going to mean a lot to him personally. But Shaun, what's your pick for this one?
So I'm waiting on this stat from my my research guy for my show. I haven't gotten it back. I want to take the Bucs, but I just feel like historically, man, we've been bottom of the elephant foot bad on our trips to California. Like, I feel like historically we've gone out there and got woodshedded. I remember my Super Bowl year, the Raiders beat the hell out of us. I remember Brady, I think first year we went to the Rams and they woodshedded us. Like, I just feel like when we go west,
the last time the Bucs went to San Francisco, it was 2016. The Bucs won. That was a bad San Francisco team, though. Chip Kelly was the head coach. Colin Kaepernick was the quarterback. Just not good.
I forgot Chip Kelly coached the 49ers. Yeah, that was bad.
But that was the last time the Bucs went to San Francisco. They won. So the last two times that they beat the 49ers in Tampa, and then the last time these two teams played, San Francisco won the opener of 2019. So it's been a minute since the Bucs have played in San Francisco.
So I'm going Bucs 17, San Francisco 16. I think it's low scoring.
Same exact scores last week. There we go. Are the 49ers going to have a 16-3 lead? That's all I want to know. Is it going to happen for a third time?
The thing I'm going to be interested in watching early is I know when the Chiefs came to Tampa and really got physical with us in the run game, we didn't respond well. So I know that's the makeup of this 49ers team. That's what Shanahan wants to be. So early in this contest, I'm really going to be looking at one thing, and that's what happens at the point of contact in the run game. Whether it's McCaffrey, whether it's I think his name is Mason, whether it's Debo, when we have opportunities to get their ball carriers on the ground, are we getting them tackled without gaining an extra 2-3 yards? And I'm probably going to wait and live bet this until I see like the first, couple tackles, and are we getting multiple hats to the ball, one, and what's happening at the point of contact? Because if you go back, and it's a good little homework for you guys, before the game. Go back and rewatch the first quarter of Kansas City, and you could tell Pacheco, Hilaire, like when those guys were running, contact was made at the 30. The ball carrier was getting to the 32, 33. So that's what I'm going to watch early. What do we look like? If we're tackling and they're getting them on the ground, then I'm going Bucs money line. If it's one of them games where McCaffrey's getting hit 2 yards in the backfield and he's gaining 3, it might not look like a lot, but I'm telling you, that lets me know, okay, this is going to be a struggle today. So I'm going to wait. I'm pulling for the Bucs to win it. I think it's a statement game. Regardless of what happens in this game, I still think the arrow is pointing in the right direction for them. But I'm going to go 17-16, hard-fought, conference win that, may be a prelude, to what we're going to see in the playoffs, because I know they had a report that Garoppolo will return, but I don't think he's coming back. I think his last game as a 49er, was the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, and just a footnote on this Bucs team and where they are. Win, lose, or draw this week, they could fall to 6-7 and still have first place in the NFC South. Realistically, as long as they win those last 2 out of 3 division games, they could finish with an 8-9 record, worst case scenario, and still have a spot at the playoffs. Not ideal, but obviously it's all going to depend on how you come out and play this week. All right, one more question, and then we're going to go. This is a quick one. Who's going to catch Tom Brady's 100th touchdown as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer? I think that Mike Evans connection is back this week, and he scores a touchdown in San Francisco. He scores a touchdown for the first time, 8-9 weeks since it's been big number 13 in the end zone. So I think he's the one to get Brady's 100th touchdown throw. What do you think, Evan? Who's it going to be?
Keyshawn Vaughn. No, I'm just kidding. No, I actually like Chris Godwin. Yeah,
Okay.
Chris Godwin. He had a touchdown in Cleveland. Had the touchdown versus New Orleans. They got called back. So I'd like Godwin to get in the end zone and catch the 100th touchdown of Tom Brady's Buccaneer career.
What do you think, Shaun?
Well, I'm playing Brady in fantasy, so I'm hoping that the Bucs put up 28 and it's all Rashad White and Leonard Fournette runs. Because I don't want Brady to have a big game against me in fantasy. We're almost to the playoffs. So, no, I think we haven't thrown a lot of long touchdowns. It's kind of been like a unique year for Tom. So I'm going to go with one of the tight ends or the running backs. One of those times where we're inside the 10 and, they're on like a little option route or something. So Fournette, White or Otten or Brady if he plays. I know that's a lot of that, but I'm just telling you how I think it unfolds.
No, I like it. It's been a good year for
By the way,
Otten.
shout out to Tom Brady. I'm so happy they're winning, man. He's dealt with so much stuff this year. I'm pulling for Buddy, man. He's been great for us. I mean, he put the Bucs back on the map. I mean, we were completely irrelevant before he got off the plane and they announced that he was going to be our quarterback. So I'm happy. Hopefully we can go to San Francisco and get us a dub.
Should be a great game. Ladies and gentlemen, with all that being said, that's just about going to do it for this week's game preview edition of the Cannon Fire podcast. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show and, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL and check out his written work at BucsNation.com. What have you got coming out this week between now and the game?
Just the stock watch. Just going to be looking at some players from the past week or 2 weeks and take a look at if their stock's up or their stock's down. So going to have, after a win, you always have more stock up than stock down. So
by the way, just one little small thing to watch. Niners have been like best in the league versus opposing tight ends.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a week where those edge guys really have to do a good job of winning in their routes because they've been really good against opposing tight ends.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find Shaun King on Twitter at Real Shaun King, and you can also find him on Instagram at Coach Shaun King, and you can find him on VSiN Live prime time, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking some bets. What do you guys got on the slate today? Is there any games that you're excited for this week? Any picks you got for sure?
Well, unbeknownst to most of my people in Tampa, I'm a super, hockey fan. So my show name is Puckstradamus, and I have been on fire in hockey. So if you guys, want to put a couple dollars in your pocket, hey, listen, Christmas coming up, New Year's coming up. All my people that watch and listen have already recouped all of their Thanksgiving expenses. So I'm just telling you guys, just tune in, download the app, VSiN. VSIN. You can listen for free if you have YouTube television. I think for $3-4 a month, you can add the VSiN channel. It is a TV show, so you can watch my beautiful mug and get some of this good hockey information. Tonight, I like the Anaheim Ducks, small home underdog. They got the San Jose Sharks coming in town, so we're going to try and pick up a couple dollars and see if we can go into the weekend feeling good about ourselves.
Are we doing money line there, or were we doing puck line?
Just money line, just the Ducks to win. Right. I think they're plus 110 or something. So if you bet, I use 100 because it's easier for me to do the math. Obviously, I didn't do a lot of class attendance at Tulane. There were people that went for me. But so if you bet 100, you get 110 plus your 100. So that's what plus 110.
Love it. Well, if you're playing, best of luck to you. Should be a lot of action between now and the game. But that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to you guys win, lose, or draw live right here on youtube.com/Cannon Fire podcast after the game on Sunday. Should be a good one. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish, and former Bucs quarterback, Shaun King. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thanks for listening, and go Bucs.